Hola, and welcome to 2020. It does feel really weird saying that. New year, new me. This is a slightly new setup. I just basically stopped sitting on the chair because, hey look, the bokeh's better, there's less direct light in my face, hopefully this is better lit, and without further ado, Duolingo. Now this is one of the most requested videos that I make on this channel, which is always nice to know because it's something I love talking about. So thank you so much for having such an interest in language learning and my adventure, learning languages. So hi, if you're new here, my name is Edinger, and I am that guy that basically became fluent in German from using Duolingo. I made a video about it ages ago, there should be an annotation on screen, about all my tips and tricks on how I got there. However, Duolingo has updated so many times that I felt it's only best to update you on the best methods, at least in 2020, on how to learn language the most optimal way. Now, if you've been here a while, you know that I set myself the lofty goal last year, the New Year's resolution, of spending a lot more time in 2019 on learning Spanish, so that way I could have 2 languages under my belt. How'd I do? Well, let's find out. Roll intro! I don't have an intro. Those are really hard to make. Anyone know how to make those? Hit me up. I also don't want you to think, by the way, I'm some sort of wonderkind that anyone speaks a foreign language around me. I'm like, in my ear, I am fluent. You know, everyone has their limits. Mine just happens to be the limit as X approaches girlfriend. I also have a lot of time that I dedicate into this. So try and fit at least 15 minutes into your schedule every day, and that should be enough so that 2 years from now, hey, maybe I'm doing my arms a bit because you can learn this much. Now, I started 2019 a lot differently than how I ended it in terms of my language learning progress. I started thinking, I'm gonna learn Spanish through German. No English at all. I'd be using Duolingo as a German speaker, and that way I'd be strengthening my roots and my bases in German while also learning Spanish without English at all. It was so cool. Foolproof plan, right? Wow. Despite how amazing it felt, and it just felt like I was this mastermind of language while I was doing this process, there were a lot of issues that came up. And I'm gonna try and like skim over this so it's not the majority at the beginning of the video, but long story short, Duolingo is really, really good if you're learning from English. All right, just throw it out there. Quick gripes, the pacing is way off. Just felt like for some of the lessons, you'd be learning something as simple as, el hombre come el pan. Perfect, the man eats the bread. And then the next lesson you go, to upgrade a bit, you get, en un lugar de la mancha de cuyo nombre no quiero acordar. I mean, you know, you just kind of get confused about like, oh, whoa, let's slow it down. And then you'll be back, and then the predator's introduced, and you're like, this is not, it's not working. Also, there were so many issues in terms of when you're learning from German, they teach you Spain Spanish, but also pretend that the Spanish in the rest of the world doesn't exist. And ustedes? Ustedes? You all heard of that? I didn't. So because of the weird pacing and the errors that I found and the weird translation glitches, it just demotivated me a lot. And so halfway through this year, I switched. I felt like I was defeated and I was a loser because I had to give up. But as soon as I switched to learning Spanish from English, the chef kiss, this is a beautiful tree. It's how Spanish is meant to be learned. Oh my gosh, it's so optimal the way that they've made this. So if you want to learn Spanish, here we go. Time to talk about how. 1, every single lesson now has a tip. Tap it every single time when you go to a new lesson, and it will now teach you all the stuff basically that you might have missed out on prior. I need to learn English previously. Sometimes it can be very frustrating to jump into a new lesson with all these new concepts, only to be told you're wrong when you get them initially wrong. No one likes that, especially when you're using the mobile app, which now has these hearts. That's pretty demotivating. Now you have to go back and practice. I can't just learn. But this tip feature gives just the right amount of information to help you along the way without like force feeding it down your throat. It gives you a couple examples, give you a little bit of conjugations, and then boom, you're on your way. You're spreading your wings. You're flying all the way to España. Instead of guessing why a verb is changed a certain way, going into the community tab, seeing if anyone else has complained, you now have this boop table. Bam, perfect. Hey, yeah. Also, Duolingo have made the pacing for this Spanish tree perfect. There are only at max, I'm pretty sure, 8 new words that you will learn per lesson, so it's much more digestible. There's not like this smattering of words that you just kind of go, oh, what's going on here? Too many palabras. At this point, you have 8 max each lesson. You can slowly get those right before moving on to the next one. Also, you have new grammar and stuff thrown in as well, so it's not like, oh, 8's too little. Calm down, it's too few. Work on your English. But now, due to these smaller, more digestible lessons, it does feel like you're progressing a lot faster. Whereas before, sometimes you'd have to do a lesson literally like 20 times before you'd like move up a level. Now, every lesson 4 times basically. You do it 4 times, you get another crown. 4 times, get another crown. It feels way easier, like you're actually learning and you're moving along a path. Now, the one negative, if you can call it that, is the tree now is really, really long, has a lot of branches, it just keeps going. However, I view this as a positive because with the shorter trees, I found a lot of people did just rush them. They just would go through all the lessons to get to the end. This one, that is too daunting. I don't know how possible that is. And because of the new little mile markers here, they have these little tests, you can't just do that. You've got to make sure you pass that before you go to the next one, which is just such a good idea. Also, those little progress quizzes that are dotted along the way and those little rook castle type things, those are actually also used by the company to kind of figure out how well they're doing at teaching you the language so they can then optimize it for future learners. It's like a beautiful, beautiful mathematical thing that they've done, you know, language and math. My 2 favorite things. So the question now is, how do I get the most out of Duolingo and learn in the most efficient way possible? Well, just as before, my first tip, learn on desktop. First of all, you'll be happy to know there are no hearts yet. Let's hope it stays that way. You don't get penalized for getting anything wrong. There is no like, you gotta buy some more hearts to keep going. None of that exists on desktop. You just have a good experience. Also, personally, I like having all 5 of my fingers. I have 10 fingers. But also on desktop, the questions and the prompts are just a little bit more difficult, and I find they're better at helping access your long-term memory. If you're using the mobile app, you'll find a lot of prompts that are just match the words or tap the bubble of the right words. Not that difficult compared to on desktop, where I find most of the time I'm having to write things in, at least towards the end of each lesson. And I do much prefer that because it is more difficult and I find it's a much more optimal way of learning. But I do have to say, the mobile app has been updated significantly. Mobile now has stories. Phenomenal. Mobile now has the same graphics on desktop and mobile. Great. They also have the community tab, so if you have a question about like, why did I get this wrong? I don't know what the heck it, boom, you can tap that little comment button, you're there. You now see some comments of people going, I also don't understand, and ta-da! Learning. Now, in terms of Duolingo Plus, should you get it? Hey, if you want to support the company, and you're a long-time Duolingo user, go for it. Or if you're part of the Duolingo mobile gang, maybe, and you want to, have unlimited hearts, that could be nice. You don't have a desktop, then sure, go for it. But I do just wish the price was a little bit less for what it offers, which is basically just an ad-free experience. That's just my opinion. Maybe you love it. Tell me, I'd love to hear. So in my last video on Duolingo, I talked about how you should gold all of your lessons before learning anything new. I think that did work with the previous way Duolingo worked. But now, with the whole crown system and with the whole bite-sized little lessons, I have a much better method, and I call it cascading, or waterfall. See, I still have a couple friends that utilize my previous method of golding all lessons before moving on to the next one. And the reason I don't think that works as much here is because you can get into fatigue very fast. You're doing the same lesson over and over and over. You're going to get, bored of that lesson content if there's only 8 words in it, And also, you're only repeating that content, and then as soon as you're done, you move on to something else. It's gone. You learned it, and then you move on to something else, and you're not really going to use it as much anymore. Whereas the cascading method, oh boy, you get that long term on fleek. Bringing back slang from 2016. First step, get 4 or 5 lessons up to level 1. Then start getting some more lessons up to level 1 while getting those previous level 1s up to level 2. Then you just keep carrying on that trend. Get the level 2s to level 3s while getting the 1s to 2s while getting new ones to 1s until you have this beautiful looking cascade. Wow, lots of gold goes down to 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s, and then the new ones you're learning. Now, why this method works better is you're not just getting everything done in one go. You're actually constantly refreshing and practicing these lessons that you've learned while adding new stuff to your repertoire. It's amazing. But Evan, I still feel like I might get a bit fatigued once I get to level 3. Well, actually, a method I like to do is once I get to 3, I test out a level 4 and I test out a level 5. And that's the way I can signal to myself, I fully understood this lesson enough that I've taken a test and I passed. Bam! Plus you get 20 points. You don't have to waste your time going through if you feel like you fully know it. Good. Also, if any of your previous lessons happen to crack, that's okay. You can just quickly practice that, get an easy 20 points, and because you did the cascading method, it should be better preserved in your memory, basically. Now, once you feel like you've got a pretty good handle on your tree, I'd highly recommend checking out Duolingo Stories. Even if it's just every once in a while, once a week, do 1 or 2 stories just to add them in, you'll be amazed at how cool it feels that you're actually reading and comprehending a story not in your native language. And you might feel, even if you're at the very beginning of your learning journey, that you're able to understand those first couple lessons because they are very basic and they use basic grammar to help you build that confidence. And Also, as a top tip, I'd highly recommend do not use the mouse over tips while you're reading in Duolingo stories. They will tell you what the word means, but it's so much more effective for your learning, and it's so much more of a eureka, like, good feeling. If you do not do that, you learn through context, and then at the very end, there's a quiz to see, did you pick up the context meaning of these words? Now, for those of you that have made great progress with your tree and you've enjoyed the stories, I would recommend you check out the Duolingo podcast, which is in Spanish and French at this point. I've tried out the Spanish one. It seems to have a really good balance of Spanish and English, so you're not like too overwhelmed at first, and it's not super fast Spanish like most Spanish, so you're able to comprehend it and be like, cool. It's really good for listening comprehension, because I know a lot of people say like, oh, Duolingo isn't that great for that. That's what they get the podcast for at least Spanish and French for now, so I would recommend you check out that once you're further along. The topics are pretty interesting. And lastly, one part of Duolingo I haven't gone into much detail yet about is leagues. Leagues are a very polarizing topic. Some people love them, some people hate them. The most competitive side of people really comes out. Personally, I think they're pretty great. They really help bring back that competitive nature that I felt when I first downloaded Duo and all of my friends were on it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna make sure I have more than you, Rusty. Now, I know what you're thinking. Evan, I'm watching a YouTube video about how to best do Duolingo. Do you really think I have many friends? Hey, I'm burning myself here too, okay, with this. That's the point of leagues. With leagues now, it doesn't matter if you don't have any friends. You've got leagues. You just placed 50 people into a random league, which, by the way, 50 people are kind of chosen based on when you finish your first lesson of the week on Monday. So top tip, if you want to avoid being in a league with all the tryhards, maybe do it towards the end of Monday night, like 11:55 p.m. That seems to be the top tip mostly that I see online. The top 10 progress and the bottom 5 go down. Some people have been using bots in the past. I haven't seen them in a while, but at one point I saw someone have like 60,000 points within a week. That's how many I got in 3 years, so damn. My top tip for if you're trying to just boost yourself up and stay in the league so that you don't get kicked out is every single day, just do the first 5 lessons, the most basic ones, on top of what you normally do, because that's an easy 100 XP. You know, if you're gonna do 100 a day normally and you wanna throw an extra 100 in there, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Or, einfach squeezy. You know, it sounds fun in English, easy peasy lemon squeezy. German, it's just, das ist doch babyleicht. That's baby simplicity. That's as easy for a baby. That is just baby. Thanks, German. Now, no matter what I've said, my actual #1 tip through all of this, try not to get discouraged. It really isn't a race. If you think now about your decision to try using this year to learn more of a foreign language, you'll be amazed at how much more you know in a year's time if you just set aside a small amount of time each day to do that. It doesn't matter if you're not fluent, you will know more of the language. You'll be able to say some more basic things and you'll be on your way to fluency. Und who knows? Vielleicht könnten wir eines Tages auf Deutsch oder Spanisch miteinander sprechen. Nunca sabes. That was really cool. As is tradition on this channel, whenever I make a video about Duolingo, they will, without fail, update their whole system, invalidating everything I've said. So if you want to make sure you get the top tips whenever I make another video about this, be sure to subscribe. Oh, ring the bell. Whenever I make a new video, you'll be notified. If you haven't seen my video from last week, by the way, you can check him out. He's pretty cool. I did a day in the life. It's actually my day in the life. There's a lot of Duo, a lot of other stuff in there. Or just watch another one. I don't know. You can live your life. Best of luck learning a language in 2020. Buena suerte. Viel Glück. And without further ado, I'll see you guys next Sunday. Goodbye. Adios, amigos. Did I forget how to say goodbye in German? Tschüss!